Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Hau Huddle, a show where two cousins talk about the NFL. My name is Andrew Howe, joined alongside Xavier Howe, and we are here to recap Week 10 of the NFL season and get you guys set for Week 11 as we are getting closer to the end of the 2025 regular season. Xavier, it was a great week of football. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. A lot of great games. A lot of kind of interesting low-scoring games, and then some other ones that like really racked up the scores. So we're gonna definitely talk about all of them. Starting off with our game from Berlin, Germany, with the Indianapolis Colts beating the Atlanta Falcons last week, 31 to 25. This game went to overtime, and at the end of the day, it was Jonathan Taylor for the Colts who ended up having a huge day, also scoring the game-winning touchdown.
When you mean John, you mean the Colts? You're basically saying Jonathan Taylor. I mean, 250 yards for 3 touchdowns and the game-winning touchdown. He had 30 carries, and he's just insane. I think he's definitely in the MVP conversation, and is literally like the reason why the Colts are 8-2, and he's just insane this year.
Yeah. Jonathan Taylor had 244 rushing yards, and Daniel Jones had 255 passing yards. So he almost had as many passing yards as rushing yards. He had the longest rushing touchdown in Colts history with an 86-yarder, I believe. And of course, those three touchdowns so important in terms of getting them that win. The Falcons are in a weird spot right now here, Xavier. It feels like things kind of are a little bit out of whack, and now they're sitting at 3-6 and third place in what was supposed to be a pretty weak division for them.
Yeah, and like literally, I mean, I think they're a good team. They just don't know how to win games. Like, I mean, their defense pretty solid. Offense is not that bad. Jake Lynn's playing great, but they just like their team is just doesn't have that winning culture, and they can't close out games. It comes to show in this overtime game they can't win it. So
Yeah.
big
Now,
reason.
for the Colts, are you worried at all about Daniel Jones and maybe a little bit of regression from him? He had an interception as well as a lost fumble, and he also fumbled two more times, even though he was able to recover them afterwards.
Well, yeah, because I mean, it kind of shows that Daniel Jones isn't as superhuman as we thought, and he's showing some of his giant side, but I think he's still progressed a lot this year.
Yeah, definitely think something to keep an eye out for, especially in terms of what the Colts want to do next year if they want to try to build off this momentum going into 2026. Okay, let's move on to our next game, a matchup in the AFC South. The Houston Texans beat the Jacksonville Jaguars 36 to 29. The score was 29 to 10 in the fourth quarter, and then the Texans, led by Davis Mills, making his first start of the year, ends up going for 26 straight points in the fourth quarter.
Yeah, what an insane game. And to be honest, I'm not saying I call it, but it looked like the Jaguars offense wasn't going to be doing anything because literally I do not know how they ended up with 29 points on the board, but they just did because I thought it looked like a fair game at first. And there's just a point where the Houston's have to explode against this team that's not playing a very well game. Somehow it's 29 points, and the defense, of course, came to factor with that. Of course, that touchdown at the end and just like holding them in the whole entire fourth quarter. And this Houston team, especially with like Woody Marks upcoming, you got Nico Collins had a good game. If David Mills plays steady, I feel like they have a strong shot of getting a winning record this year.
Yeah, I mean the end of this game was absolutely insane as well. You had the big man recovering the fumble in the end zone for the touchdown to seal the deal with the clock hit zero. Things really fell apart for the Jaguars. I mean, only two touchdowns despite the 29 points because Cam Little, on the offensive end at least I should say, Cam Little hit three field goals, and then of course there was that punt return touchdown that was put through by Parker Washington. So it's a weird situation here for Jacksonville, Xavier. And Houston definitely feels good about having Nico Collins back. He had seven receptions for 136 yards. Do you think that Davis Mills is really the big player, or are you really excited now? Because I am to see C.J. Stroud eventually come back from his concussion to try to fill in for Houston with Nico Collins back.
I'm really excited to see C. Stroud because after the offense had a great week, I want to see how he can add to it above Davis Mills. I want to see Woody Mark have another crazy game because I feel like it's just like um just seems right for him to.
Yeah. Let's quickly hit on the Miami Dolphins beating the Buffalo Bills in Miami 30-13. There was a lot of rain involved, a lot of Devon Achane who ran for 170 yards and had 2 touchdowns. But this was just a really bad game for Josh Allen and the Buffalo Bills.
Yeah, and I mean, James Cook 50 yards against his Dolphins defense. You would have thought you would have had 100. And Josh Allen didn't have great decision making, I would say. I mean, he had that one pick, and their defense. I mean, what is going on? But even Tua threw 2 picks, but they still can get it done. And they let A-Chain run all over them. And A-Chain is honestly looking insane. And he's don't sleep on him because people are kind of forgetting about him. And he's like he put up like what 40 fantasy points. He projected like what like 20, 29 or something.
Yeah,
This guy's a machine right now.
Devon Achane is one of the best running backs in the league. I mean, there's so much good running back play right now in the NFL. We're going to talk about some of them a little bit later as well. But yeah, kind of a lost season for Miami, but definitely feels good to get this win over the Bills, especially when you're at home. You always want to try to defend your home ground. The run game was not doing anything here for Buffalo, and I think a bigger concern for them is that Dalton Kincaid left with a hamstring injury, and he's considered week to week right now. He was one of Josh Allen's biggest receivers, and so if the run game was having some trouble, and if Kincaid is not available, I mean, I'm a little bit worried for Buffalo going down the stretch because all of a sudden the New England Patriots are looking really good here, Xavier. As we can transition into our next game, I mean, just real quick, they beat the Buccaneers, but talk about this AFC East race right now. Do you think the Patriots have the division in their hands at this point?
Right now, since they beat the Bills, I mean, it's hard for them, hard to see them really drastically fall after the 8-2. I mean, the Bills are 6-3. If the Bills get another loss and they get another win, I think this division is done. But you can never count out Josh Allen, and then so we'll see how it ends up. But as of now, yes.
I mean, look at their next 3 games.
Oh, their
Jets,
schedule, their schedule.
Bengals, Giants, bye. And then they play Bills, Ravens, and then that's going to be a little bit challenging, but they could be
Jets
11 and
are
2 going into their bye week. Who would have thought the Patriots could have had that happen to them?
I think they could realistically be 13-4 or better if I look at their schedule right now. I think they can beat the Jets, they can beat the Bengals, they can beat the Giants, they can beat the Jets, they can beat the Dolphins. They play the Bills and the Ravens. Those 2 games.
Yeah, I mean, let's talk about this Bucks game for a little bit too, because this one went back and forth. It looked like a little bit of Baker magic was in store, but really nice job by New England to shut all of that down. I mean, Travion Henderson also having a great game, finally breaking out. Obviously, Ramondre Stevenson wasn't available, but he's quickly becoming RB1 there in New England here, Xavier.
Yeah, and matter of fact, they're actually playing right now. So, but yeah, Trayvon Henderson. Everyone waiting for him to pop up. Everyone he finally lived up to the preseason hype, like everyone has said, and good for him, because now he showed the league that he actually lives up to the hype and continues what he had from Ohio State.
Yeah, definitely. Let's talk about 2 more games to wrap up the day, or no, two more games real quick. The both happening, at the 4 o'clock slate. You had the Detroit Lions beating the Commanders 44-22, with Jameer Gibbs having an awesome game with 142 yards, 2 touchdowns on the run, and also accounting for 30 yards receiving and a receiving touchdown. So 3 touchdowns total, his first 3 touchdown game of his career. And then you had the Rams beating the 49ers 42-26, basically destroying them. And Matthew Stafford throwing another game of 4 touchdowns and 0 interceptions. Xavier, out of those two players, Gibbs or Stafford, which one were you more impressed by?
I was honestly, I'm pretty impressed by Stafford because 4 touchdowns throwing up is pretty amazing. Even though right now, to be honest, that I shouldn't be that loud, but I think Jameer Gibbs, to be honest, because he has had a good season, but his last game was not very good. So I was impressed by him to bounce back with such a good game, and 15 carries for 140 yards isn't too bad.
Yeah, I mean, 3 touchdowns again. Just, I mean, the Commanders' defense is definitely a little bit beat up right now, but still have to give credit to the Lions because they have Dan Campbell calling the offensive plays now. What do you think about that?
Yeah, everyone was super hyped about that, and he didn't disappoint with the 44 points on the board. And we'll see how it comes to play, and we'll see if any interesting things happen with this play calling.
Yeah. The Lions looked rejuvenated. They scored on every single possession that they had the ball until the last one of the game where they just knelt it out to win. So that's a pretty good start for Dan Campbell in the offensive coordinator, play caller chair, whatever you want to call it. Last but not least here, Xavier, let's talk about your Philadelphia Eagles. Was not pretty, but they went into Lambeau and finished off the win. Final score 10-7. This was a defensive battle, to say the least. I mean, are you feeling good about this one, or are you a little bit worried about what's to come?
I'm honestly not feeling that great about this one, but I'm just happy with it because if we're playing the Packers 5-2-1, it's going to be a tough game. We're not expecting to blow them out, but we didn't close out. But the offense did look shaky. We couldn't really get the offensive game going, and like, well, both teams couldn't get the offensive game going. It was literally just a defensive battle, like you said. And I'm really proud of our defense for standing up, but our offense got to make some work, just like AJ Brown said in the presser.
Yeah, I mean, real quick before we start to get into some of the AJ Brown stuff, because that's very interesting. I want to hear your thoughts about this decision by Nick Sirianni. 4th and 6 with 33 seconds left, down up three. Jalen Hurts decides to pass the ball on both on third down or on fourth down I should say, which basically gives the Packers a ton of time and not bad field position. They only needed like 30 or 40 yards, and it actually got kind of close. Brandon McManus had to kick a 64-yard field goal. If they got 10 more yards, it could have been a very different story. What did you think about that decision to try to end the game right there?
It is a very gutsy call, and a lot of people hate that. I'm not a big fan of that call, but nor am I a big hater of that call because it's not bad to see him aggressive, but on in that position, I think it's maybe I thought maybe he'd kick the field goal because Jake maybe could have made that, but if they if they pass the ball for the first down, that could have been the game. But it ended up being close, and if they lost that game, that decision would have definitely ratted them out. So
Yeah, I mean, a lot of questionable stuff happening there, specifically with the offense. Last thing, very good, very big shout out to Jalen Phillips, new addition to the Eagles. We talked about him last week. He definitely had a great game. But let's talk about this Philadelphia offense here, Xavier. Saquon's not having the same year that he had a year ago, and the passing game was shining for a little bit a couple of weeks ago. But Jalen Hurts and the passing game not as dominant here against Green Bay. AJ Brown, their biggest star, a lot of people would say, only 2 receptions for 13 yards, and he definitely made it known that he wasn't particularly pleased with how things have been going so far. What's your whole take about how the Eagles' offense has been operating, and do you agree with AJ Brown in that he needs to get more involved?
right now, Dio's offense, like AJ Brown said, we're winning games, but we need to improve if we want to really get better. Because yeah, it is true what he said, and the offense does need to get better, even if they're winning. Oh, I say wins a win. Yeah, but that's not going to slide in the playoffs, and we could not go back to back if our offense keeps playing like this. And I think it just needs to like get together. I agree with AJ. He needs to get more pass. He needs to get more passing plays. I think they're not really using him in the offense like he wants them to. I feel like they're maybe not running him on the right routes. Maybe he's play is not designed to him. It's designed to like what Dallas Goddard. But Jalen Hurts has got to put his stuff together, become a more consistent passer. Saquon's got to get some more work on the ground. Our all-around offense really needs to get together if we want to make it far in the playoffs. But AJ Brown is right.
Well, what do you think? Do you think it's mostly on Jalen Hurts to find AJ Brown in these opportunities where he might be open? Is it Nick Sirianni's fault for not, organizing the offense in that way? Is it their offensive coordinator's fault? I mean, like, who needs to end up changing some of the decisions? Obviously, we're not going to know too much about what goes on in the locker room, but what do you think from watching the games?
From watching the games, I see that he gets decent targets, but most of them aren't really close, which leads me to say that he's not running his normal routes because it's hard to think that he got worse. So, I mean, think of those crossing routes, and you'd think that he's like top 10 in running crossing routes. Matter of fact, he's of lower than 100. So it's kind of like that's an interesting stat, and it kind of shows to maybe it's the coordinator not running him on the routes. I mean, just in my mind, it's hard to think that he got worse than last year. So it's got to be something with like coordinators or maybe Jalen.
Okay, you know what? It's an interesting discussion. I like the point about the different routes that they could run because it feels like the play calling is not necessarily set up for the wide receivers to always succeed. We saw a little bit of that happen, like the Tampa Bay Buccaneers game, for example, even though they didn't end up, coming out with that one. But I'm a little bit concerned about what the Eagles' offense does look like because it is very different than what it was even, a year ago. So let's stay in the NFC East though, as we have some other big news happening in the National Football League. The Giants threw another lead, like they always have this year. They are 0-4 in games on the road in which they had led by 10 points or more in the fourth quarter. Isn't that an insane number, Xavier? They've had 4 games where
Not
they
a
were
great.
on the road and had 10-point leads, and they've lost all of them. They lost this one to the Bears 24-20, where with 4 minutes left to go, they still had a 10-point lead, and then Caleb Williams scored 2 quick touchdowns back to back, one on the pass to Dunze and then one on the run for himself to win this game here for Chicago to bring them to 6-3. And the Giants end up punishing that game happening by firing their head coach Brian Daboll. What do you think about all this here, Xavier? Was this a justified move? Were you expecting it? And what's to come here for New York?
Well, I think this might be like a statement move. Like they're saying, like, oh, if you're really gonna lose us these games down the stretch, we don't want you here. So it shows Giants are really wanting a coach that they can trust. But Dayball, I feel like people were kind of liking him in this scheme of all the rookies coming together and the guy he put together. I mean, they're showing flashes of it, but they haven't shown wins for it. So I think the organization's like, oh, if you're gonna make the offense look good, at least give us some wins, and that's what they haven't been doing. So I mean, it's a pretty reasonable fire, but kind of surprising. But a lot of people kind of expected it coming with the Giants' record being what 2-7.
Yeah, so I mean, it feels like the Giants in another universe could be like 6-4 right now if just some of these things went a little bit differently. Um, I don't know if I can truly. I mean, obviously, like the play calling and stuff at the end of the game, you can throw some blame towards, but Jackson Dart left the game in the fourth quarter with a concussion. He wasn't able to come back and finish off this game. The Giants were looking good when Jackson Dart was in the game, and then when Russell Wilson came in, just no life out of them whatsoever. And when you don't have your starting quarterback, your starting running back, or your number one wide receiver, kind of hard to do anything offensively, and it definitely showed. But with that being said, I feel like this move, if anything, was a little bit overdue. I feel like Dable and the Giants were gonna part ways eventually, so you might as well just cut the cord right now. Um, I'm very curious to see what's gonna happen. I think Jameis Winston is still slated to start now next week. So I mean, what do you think, Xavier? Is a successful rest of the year look like here for the Giants?
Well, first of all, they if they're gonna stay with like whatever they're filling coaches, and if they're gonna hire a new one, and well, I mean, we'll see if Jackson Dart comes back because hopefully he's doing good. But if he comes back in a while, this Giants team won't get it to show this year. But they'll come back next year, and hopefully they'll get Malik back and get maybe Scatabo back. And I'm excited to see what they'll do next year. But this year is not looking that great.
Yeah, I think you just got to try to find as much development as you can, figure out which pieces are good, which ones are here to stay, which ones maybe you can start to ship off and look towards the future. This definitely was a disappointing season here for your New York Giants. One last topic before we get into the predictions here, Xavier. Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, currently sitting at 3-6, but he came out and said that the injury that he suffered is maybe doing a little bit better than people originally expected. They asked him if he's ready to play by Thanksgiving, and he said, "You know what? We'll see, but that's potentially a goal that he's looking for." The Bengals are 3-6, but the rest of the division is not looking super strong. They're only a game behind the Baltimore Ravens, who are looking good with Lamar back, but only 2 games back of Pittsburgh, who are starting to look a little bit worse. Do you think there's any chance, Xavier, that the Bengals with Joe Burrow could somehow make the playoffs from this situation?
I mean, this is what everyone thought last year, and I'm going to say it is a possibility. Do I think they're going to win every game the rest of the season? No. So, I mean, if you look at their schedule, it's honestly looking kind of terrorizing. You got Patriots, Ravens, Bills, Ravens. Then you got the last 3 games that you can win. So, I mean, if they sweep those games, they're gonna make it. They basically have to win 3 out of 4 of those games, which is really hard, and I really can't imagine seeing them do it. But with Joe Burrow, anything is possible in this offense. But it's really a matter of fact if the defense can hold these teams that are looking blazing right now. But those are you have to win 3 of 4 of those games, and that percent chance to me is like 20.
Yeah, it seems pretty unlikely to me as well, but there's always some hope with Joe Burrow coming back. I mean, the thing for me is that the Bengals offense has actually not been the problem recently, especially with Joe Flacco being slated back into the lineup. It's just the defense, and it's not like the Bengals really did much to help the defense. In fact, they traded away one of their linebackers at the deadline, so I don't think it's necessarily going to be much of a help for them to have Joe Burrow back, even though he is a very good quarterback, just because Joe Flacco has been doing a decent enough job with the pieces that they have. So I'm gonna say right now, no. But if they win that game against the Patriots and the Steelers, and Joe Burrow is ready to come back for Thanksgiving, we'll have another conversation about it. Let's go into our Week 11 predictions to wrap up the show here, Xavier. Couple of really interesting games throughout the league. Let's start off in the NFC South. Panthers Falcons. The Panthers just taking a pretty bad loss to the Saints, but they still want to try to keep their playoff hopes alive. Who do you think wins this game?
At in home at Atlanta, even coming off that loss, they did put 25 points against them. Indianapolis Colts only lost in OT. Meanwhile, Panthers, they haven't really did well in the last game with Tyler Shuck running over their team. So, I mean, I think it comes down to the Falcons' defense, and I feel like they show out this game. I think in a home win, 24-13.
I'm gonna say the Panthers because I love their team. I love Rico Dowdle. He's been playing so fun. He's playing like really fun football. Bryce Young has not been able to do too much, but it's been hopefully an opportunity for him to bounce back here against Atlanta. I'll say they win this one in a very close battle, 21-20 final score. Let's go on to the Buccaneers taking on the Bills in Orchard Park. Bills had a pretty rough time in Florida last week, but now they're going to be on their home turf against another really tough opponent. Who do you think wins this game here, Xavier?
Hard to imagine either of these teams going 6-4. Hard to not imagine it's not a close game. I'm gonna bet on this close game. I know a lot of people might not think this is gonna happen, but I'll take a shot at it. Baker game-winning drive in Buffalo. In Buffalo, I'm gonna say 27-24.
Wow, so you think the Bucks are going to win?
Yeah, hot take.
Okay, I'll say the Bills for now. However, I'm a little bit worried. Again, we mentioned Kincaid being potentially out. If he's in, I think they have a good chance of winning. If not, I think the Bucks definitely have a chance. Both these teams contenders, but potentially a little bit shaky ground right now. Let's go on to the Chargers facing off against the Jacksonville Jaguars. Who do you think wins this game?
After Jacksonville coming off that treacherous win, and the Chargers coming off that good win, I'm gonna have to give it to the momentum here, and I'll say Chargers. Even if they're in Duval, I just think this offense is too much. 27, 30-21.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to say the Chargers as well. 28-14. I'm not super confident right now about what Jacksonville has to offer, but hopefully we can see them bounce back a little bit. Jacoby Myers coming in can hopefully bolster that receiving room a little bit that has been absolutely torn apart due to injury. All right, we got some real heavy hitters here to wrap up the show. Seahawks Rams battle in the NFC West at 4:05 p.m. Who do you think wins this one between Sam Darnold and Matthew Stafford?
To be honest, I mean, it could really change it does really change the division format right now, especially with these 2 teams leading it off same record. This game honestly might be the biggest game of both of these 2 teams right now, and both offenses are looking amazing. Seattle coming off of an amazing week, but I just I feel like I have to give it to the Rams here. I mean, their offense, Matthew Stafford throwing 4 touchdowns. If they can get the ground game running, even after Seattle, I feel like they can play a good game at home. I think it's going to be 31 to 23.
You might look at the scores of both those games that happened in the NFC West last week and think, oh, both of them played really good games. The Seahawks scored 44 points against the Cardinals. Like, that's a good sign for them, right? But a lot of those, I feel like, were mostly mistakes by the Cardinals, specifically by Jacoby Brissett, who had three turnovers, I should say, in the first half alone, making it just an absolute disaster of a first half here for Arizona. So the Seahawks kind of got away with not having to do a ton on the offensive end. I think that's going to not be the case going up against the best player, the best quarterback, in my opinion, that's playing right now in the NFL, and that's Matthew Stafford. So I agree. I'm going to have the Rams winning this one. They're at home as well, so that should be a big boost. I'm going to say they win this game 34 to 21 final score. All right, another big game in the AFC West. Chiefs Broncos. Broncos at 8-2 after beating the Raiders last week. Who do you got here, Xavier?
I mean, I just feel like the Chiefs cannot go to 5-5. Does not seem right in any realm whatsoever. I do think it's gonna be a close game, but I feel like they could take back some of that black magic from last year, just put it into this one game. Because the Chiefs going 500 is kind of crazy to think about. So I'll say they go 6-4. Broncos 8-3. I'll say the score is gonna be Chiefs 27, Broncos 21, and the defense comes up big for the Chiefs.
Yeah, I don't really feel great about either of these offenses right now, Xavier. The Chiefs had some good plays offensively. Obviously, you have Patrick Mahomes, but the Broncos, specifically with Bo Nix, just has not really been able to do much over these last couple
ten
of
to
weeks.
seven win against the Raiders.
I
Eight
know
games
they
by.
keep winning these games that it feels like their offense is not doing a ton. So shout out to the defenses. It's going to be a really close battle, but I'm going to say the Chiefs win this one. I'm going to say it's like 17-13 final score. I really think it'll be a pretty low scoring affair.
Yeah, especially these defenses.
Yeah, I mean both defenses are really good. I think really all the defenses in that division really strong. All
Yeah.
right, let's wrap up with Sunday Night Football. Lions Eagles. This is one of the best games of the season so far. NFC versus AFC, or sorry, NFC versus NFC championship game. Potential predictor here, Xavier. Who do you think wins this game?
NFC Championship preview. I'll say that. Um, I mean, Eagles at home is kind of scary against this Lions offense. I feel like the Eagles are due for a week that AJ Brown pops off or Saquon, one of them at least. They're just way too due. The Lions had their game last week in front of Trump. I feel like this is the Eagles game right now. I know both offenses are firepowered, but I feel like the Eagles defense has got to be better than the Lions defense in my opinion. But both defenses are pretty good. But I feel like Jalen Phillips has a good game, and I'll give Eagles the win 24 to 20.
It's gonna be a dogfight. That's all we know for sure. I'm gonna take the Lions. Their offense just looked too good for me. I know Xavier. I hate predicting against your Eagles, but I think it's gonna be a really good game, a really close game, and the really low scoring game, I would say, or at least a decently low scoring game compared to maybe what we were expecting because the Eagles defense certainly looks very good right now. But I do think the Lions offense is better than the Packers, and I think that if the Packers offense was just a little bit better, if they had a couple more options on the receiving room, I think the Packers could have been able to win that game. And now you're going up against Jameson Williams and Amon-Ra St. Brown. I'm going to say the Lions win this one 23-21 final score. That does it for this week of the Hau Huddle. Thank you so much, everybody, for tuning in. It was a really good episode. We got to talk about a lot of really important news, and the NFL
Thank
season is just
you.
heating up. What do you think, Xavier?
Bye, everyone. Peace.
Oh, the fake out. We'll see you for week 12.